Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. Today's show is brought to you by RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them at 1-800-364-9007. Find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com. HSV Inside Out is also brought to you by Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club Chairman Circle and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there.
Dennis Simpson, Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, Inside Out, talking to my friend, Miss Melanie Clark. How are you doing, dear?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. And so the reason I'm interviewing Melanie today is because, Melanie, you're a volunteer. And what do we need more of these days?
More volunteers.
Why are we running so short, you think?
You know, that's a good question. So, in my humble opinion, we're running short of volunteers because the people that tend to do these things are getting old and moving on.
Well, and I hate to confess this, but, you know, that old volunteer thing, they were taking care of it for years and years. They didn't need me, right? And now what?
Now we do.
What do you think is the best reason to volunteer?
The best reason to volunteer. I'll tell you why I volunteer. Okay. I volunteer because it's the way God made me. Nothing brings me greater joy than knowing that something I did made a positive difference in somebody's life and made the world better.
And how much did it cost you? Zero. For those of you that are listening.
Zero.
It would be zero. So, Melanie, what organizations do you volunteer on now?
At this time, it would be American Legion and the Hot Springs Village Townhouse Association.
So, what's the American Legion? Give me a little more background there. What's the nature of that organization?
American Legions is a veteran service organization, a group of veterans that it's the oldest veteran service organization in the United States. What we do is we help other veterans. Their biggest part, I guess, is to help veterans with their claims with the VA. So medical claims, schooling claims, things like that.
Do you have to be a veteran to be part of that association?
Indeed, yes. It's
Okay.
required.
Okay. And you said that this is where I've known you from and where we met is that you volunteer with the Town Homeowners Association, right?
I do. I started doing that because the court where I live, the Soto courts, didn't have a rep. And I thought, somebody's got to do it. It might as well be me.
Did you grow up with a family that volunteered, or was this something that just came to you later in life, or what?
No, I think I was a black sheep. It's not something my family did. It's just something I was born with.
Wow.
Let me tell you a little story. So
Sure, please.
when I was in the seventh grade, um, the school I attended had an event, and they assigned seventh graders to the younger classrooms to help the teachers with their students, third
Yeah.
grade, fourth grade. Well, the event was over, and my mother was looking for me, and she didn't expect me to hang out and wait until my job was done. And she was pretty upset because she had to look for me. She should have known where to find me. I was where I was supposed to be.
Do you think you were born with it?
I do. I do. Yeah. It was
Well,
suggested to me. It was suggested to me when I was young that I should be a nurse, but that's not for me.
yeah, yeah, that could involve blood and gore and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah, no.
No thanks. No thanks. So let me ask real quick. The and I know it sounds silly. You see a need, you volunteer. How hard is that, right? It's more complicated than that, isn't it?
It's more complicated than that. Yes. Um, I think the biggest difficulty I have is saying no when I'm doing too much.
I know a guy who has a problem like that too.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
So you felt that it was it was God's calling for you to
I do.
volunteer. Tell me more about
I
that.
do. I'll tell you more. So the two greatest commandments for us is to love God and to love our neighbors. And what way can we show our love? So to love God, we obey his commandments, and to love our neighbors, we are told to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, tend to the sick, visit those in prison. And happily, Americans do these things. We probably, as a nation, put in more volunteer hours than any other nation in the world.
Really? But it's still down dramatically from the last few years, isn't it?
Yes, that's right, it is. It just doesn't seem to appeal to people anymore.
I think that, and if you'll pardon me for bumping in here for a second, I think that's because they don't understand what's in it for them, if that makes sense. Is that fair?
I'm really glad you put President Bush on the screen because I was going to talk about him.
Tell me, go ahead.
All right. So I know you know, but not everybody knows. Hot Springs Village is a thousand points of light, and that was started by President Bush. There's a really cool article in the Village Gazette 2 years ago by Cheryl. She said, since the founding of Hot Springs Village, we've been a community of volunteers and the opportunities abound.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does. I thought you were reading more. I'm sorry. That's why I paused
No,
just
I'm
a
done.
moment. No, we were declared 1,000 points of light community probably 10 years ago. It's still on the sign outside. Sadly, I don't know that we would qualify again. There's a whole new group of people, some of which want to play golf and resort and be left alone. And then there's some of which that, are more interested. Somebody had told me they thought it was an association of a downturn in church attendance, which in some ways is a volunteerism of sorts.
Mhm.
And then I don't know. I think it's getting outside yourself. What was the the quote by Zig Ziglar? I love this quote, and I know you and I share quotes all the time. Zig Ziglar said, "Selfishness is the only disease that makes everyone around the person that has it sick, except for the person that has it."
Yeah,
I'm
that
not.
sounds about right.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing us all of being selfish, but for all the hours that we spend of the day, some of those could be for our neighbor, correct?
Yes, yes, and it doesn't have to be anything outrageous. Um,
No, no.
my neighbor's sick and she needs some groceries. Go to the grocery store. It's not that hard.
I think a lot of times you touch on that. And I think a lot of times, and this is just me, but I think a lot of times people are afraid of volunteering because it's going to be sticky. See, I'm gonna come over to your house and you're sick, and I'm gonna make you some soup as you've done for me and Diane before when we were recovering. But I think a lot of people think, well, if I do that now, if I go to the store now, well, you'll ask me some other time when you're sick, or you'll. And I think we think it's an obligation. I saw a Big Bang Theory show the other day that Diane and I laughed about. Penny got Sheldon a gift. And she said, I got you a gift. And he said, no, you didn't give me a gift. You got me an obligation. I've got to get you something now. So
that
I
sounds
think
like
many
something
times,
Sheldon would say.
very Sheldon-esque, right? And I
Yeah.
think the part is that sometimes we think it is that way. We think that if we get involved in volunteerism, we won't be able to let go of it and it'll just consume us. Yeah. Speak to that if you would.
So okay, if you help your neighbor, there's no obligation to further help. You can do as much or as little as you want. But the second thing I'm thinking, if it makes me want to volunteer more, so what?
That's fair. That's fair. Or if I volunteer more, what's that? What's the downside, right? Well, what's the downside? What's the upside, right?
It
I
can
hadn't thought
only
of
be
it that
good
way.
for you.
I'm sorry, Melanie.
It can only be good for you.
Yeah, I think so. And there is, look, the problem is that the solution is balance. The solution is
That's
not
right.
volunteering every minute of your day, which you're consumed, but the other side is being so selfish that you never contribute to anything. I'll be very frank as I think back on this, my association with you, my wonderful friendship with you, and I bet I can count another 50 people that I never would have known had I not been on the Townhome Owners Association. But,
There is that.
simply going and working with other people, you meet other people and other
Mm-hmm.
like-minded, volunteer-minded people, right, Melanie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And meet as many people as you can. You never know what you'll learn.
What organization are you not now volunteering with that you would like to? And I'm just nosy. I'm just curious. Do you have anything?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. I think my plate is full.
The auxiliary and the Townhome Owners Association does it for you, huh?
I'm not in the auxiliary. I'm in
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
American
I'm sorry.
Legion.
In the
It's
American
okay.
Legion. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
It's
Excuse me.
okay.
If you would tell me, for somebody who's watching this and thinking, well, I might get involved in something, what would you suggest? Where would you get started?
Okay, so uh, the village, as I said earlier, abounds with opportunities to get involved. Check the POA website. The newsletter always has committees that need help. They need people to run for the board because they're all volunteers. Likewise, the Townhouse Association has the committees and the board that always need workers. And another place that I've looked, the Village Voice, the newspaper. The very last 2 pages are lists of service and civic clubs. I counted 100 plus civic and social.
112. Really?
100 plus civic and social clubs ready to accept new members. Whatever your interest, there's something to do.
Well, here, let me give some suggestions, and let's just off the cuff, okay? If there was another dentist, and the dentist wasn't involved in the Townhome Owners Association and all these things, I would really, I admire and appreciate what the Animal Welfare League does. And for those of you that don't know, the Animal Welfare League is a and they I will not say the word pound because it's not a pound, but it is a animal rescue that is a no-kill shelter. They have fundraisers. They do wonderful things for these animals and go to great lengths to make every animal's life better. That said, if there was more dentists to go around, I think just the simple pleasure of dog walking. I think of volunteering, and you say, well, what could I do at the, I don't want to be a professional or answer the phone. They just need people to walk the dogs. It's that simple.
And for cat people, they need people to socialize with cats.
Oh, that's right. They do. They do. I forgot they have, and part of the joke is they have a cat house and that they ask people to come in and sit with the cats and just socialize the cats. Because some of the cats they get are crazy wild, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they have kittens, frequently have kittens, and they need socializing.
You know, Miss Lynn would, I promise she would enjoy this or would appreciate this. If you, I think I would contribute more at the Animal Welfare League. I think I'd like to be on the Parks and Trails Committee because I love the trails and love the parks. And then, oh goodness, I had, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I love our library. Don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, dedicated people, and they could stand some volunteers too. And you say, well, what's that like? It can be anything from answering the phone to putting books back to checking stuff in and out to just, babysitting the desk for a few hours a week kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the Trails Committee. That's Terry Wiley, and he could always use help cleaning up the trails.
Oh. Well, and so let's call a spade here. We have a huge rain. We have a tremendous rain. Okay. We send the course workers out and they fix the sandbars, the sand pits, the sand traps. They fix the walkways, brush or is blown away, or they pick all that up. Bark is blown out of the way or whatever. They pick all that up and move all that. And a little later, as we can get to it, then we start cleaning up the trails. I got news for you. They'd let you clean up the trails any day, right?
Anytime you like.
What would be, just curious, do you have any dream volunteers that you would like to, or that you would suggest to other people? Where needs do you see?
We need more veterans in our veteran service organizations. There are more veterans in the village than are involved currently.
And that number, I was going to say, isn't getting bigger. It could, but
it's getting smaller.
Yeah,
it's getting smaller.
Yeah. Frankly, the dilemma that we have is I think nationwide, and I think it's about to hit us right in the face. Diane's mother's church in Donaldson, halfway between Malvern and Arkadelphia. That little church, her mother died 6 years ago. Just still painful to talk about because she's such a wonderful woman. At the time, I think they had 12 or 15 people, as many as 20 people attending her little church. Well, this last month when we were on vacation, we found out that there were only 4 people still attending, and it was 2 families. And the 2 families just had to put the church up for sale because it had become such an encumbrance to them. And I have great news. You want to hear a good news story?
I would love to hear a good news story.
It was over 110 years old. The church was. And no, it was closer to 130 now that I think about it. And they were thinking about putting it on the historic register of places. And I don't know if you know, but churches per se, besides just making living accommodations, churches don't have showers if you wanted to turn it into a house. Showers, they don't usually have, that kind of kitchen. To repurpose a church is a very difficult thing unless you can find another congregation, which these days church numbers are getting smaller too. The city of Donaldson bought her little church and donated all the money back to a mission. So the family that was there was just thrilled to have somebody pick it up and carry it on. I predict in the next 10 years, we're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of churches that are going to come up for sale because nobody's volunteering to take care of them and run the place and preserve that history, right?
Right. So there was a discussion on social media recently, and several people mentioned that all they wanted to do was sit home and do what they do and not go anywhere.
Yeah. You make a point. You make a point. Well, and I tell you what, I hadn't thought about it till this very moment, Melanie, but this whole technology thing we're using right now,
Mhm.
yeah, it may keep us further away from some people too, if you know what I mean.
Good point. Good point.
And while I'm sitting here talking about this, another one that came to mind, and I want to know any others that you might have. But one that comes to my mind that is a dear and beloved place that has been on this show a couple of times, and that's the Garland County Historical Society. Nobody else is good. History is not going to preserve itself, my friends. Not at all.
No, it needs help.
It does. And, many of the places that we went on vacation that we've talked about, I think, wow, this is amazing. Oh my God, this is whatever. You know what they call that when we're there? Wednesday. It's no great day to them. They have to live in a place that preserves history and a place that plans for a future too. But anyway, I digress. Well, any others that you would consider volunteering for that you think it would be a great one to suggest to people?
So, I would suggest government,
I'm sorry?
county board, government, county boards, city boards. Our legislators could use help always.
Yeah. Well, and once again, it's so rewarding, don't you find it?
It is. It is. It makes me really happy. Another thing that occurred to me, you've heard the saying, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Yeah. We're going to keep making the same. We're going to keep making the same mistakes if we don't learn from what happened.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that probably, I can't think, excuse me, I can't imagine the list is not nearly endless. And by the way, this is ironic that you and I would skip this topic. I guarantee you every church in the village would love to have you volunteer. Every church in the village, every association, every, I tell you what, back in the 90s, I used to go to the soup kitchen and I would share, I think it was Mondays and Wednesdays, and I would ladle out soup, and you say, well, Dennis, what kind of volunteerism is that? It changed my perspective. I saw the world in a different way, a much, much, much different way. And I just realized, you say, well, a soup bowl, Dennis, what's the deal? You know what? It doesn't have to be a soup kitchen. It doesn't have to be the Salvation Army. It doesn't have to be a church. It could be anywhere. But I guarantee you, friends, somebody is looking for your assistance right now. Don't you say, Melanie?
I do. And you mentioned soup kitchens, and what, how important could that be to you? But be the person that needs to accept a bowl of soup from somebody. Think about it like that.
I like that, Melanie. I really like that. Well, we just wanted a quick show today to talk about volunteerism. You have been wonderful. I know you're nervous because we're all doing the whole Zoom technology, but you did. This is the first time, and man, hang on. Let me see if I can correct it for a second. I'm burned out because the sky is so bright today, but hang on, see if I can white balance for a minute. I nearly looked better for a minute, but your lighting and everything. Oh my God, you look great. You're showing me up, girl. You're showing me up.
Thank you.
By the way, and if I can share a personal note with these folks real quick between you and I met Melanie through the Townhome Owners Association, and she is a court rep in DeSoto Court. So she goes around, and by the way, in case you think that volunteering at where we do is all, well, we're just ladling soup and whatever. No, I get phone calls from crazy and very upset townhome owners sometimes who really need help. I'll put it that way. They truly need assistance. And as a court rep, it's not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, right? Sometimes you have to tell somebody. Sometimes you have to tell somebody they can't park there. That's a joke, Melanie. That's a joke. But
I get it. I get it.
But my point being, at any level of that participation, it's rewarding. It's good for you. It does your soul good. Is that fair, Melanie?
That's fair.
And in the process of meeting Melanie, working with her, knowing her, next thing you know, Diane and I come home from a trip with COVID, and we felt like bloody heck. And all of a sudden, a big jug was, I have to get back to you, a milk jug full of, would you call it garlic soup?
Garlic soup.
Garlic soup. I'd never tell them the recipe real quick, just the pieces of it real quick.
The recipe, okay, it's not difficult. So you need onions, garlic, celery is nice. You just chop them up, saute them in some olive oil or butter. It needs some chicken broth or some other kind of stock. You mix it together and you whirl it in the blender, and it's good for what ails you.
It was good for wild elves, that's for sure. And with all the garlic, nobody came too close. It kept us from spreading the viruses.
I bet. I'm glad you liked
Melanie, we loved it. We loved it. Melanie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.